Hello, smart people. How are you today? I hope that our listeners in the US had a fantastic Thanksgiving. I've begun thinking about Christmas, but before we get to the holidays, there is still so much we can do. The year is not done yet, and we can still take action to end 2025 on a super high note that we can be really proud of. And in this episode, my aim is to help you to be super prepared if you actually decide that you want to have a technical co founder. So, I don't believe that you need a technical co founder to build a successful business, but also having a partner on your side can be a really wonderful thing because a great co founder relationship can help your business grow and be one of the most fulfilling and fruitful relationships in your life. But just because they're technical doesn't mean that you're going to have this wonderful, fruitful relationship. That is not a given. It does not happen automatically. And I've seen too many smart, non-technical founders put off doing anything because they don't yet have a technical co-founder. So essentially, they're just hunting for this person instead of actually creating a tech venture that attracts technical talent. So there are all sorts of issues with putting off what you're doing because you're looking for a technical co-founder. And even when you find them, they might not be the answers to all of your problems. Because sometimes these relationships are wonderful, a lot of the times they're not. So let's discuss the top 5 things that you need to know before you take on a technical co-founder. Coding is not the same as leading product development and really understanding what the product does. So somebody who can write code is not automatically somebody who can design a product that users love. Somebody who can code is not somebody who can understand users or prioritize features. Yes, they can build those features, but they might not pick the right ones to build like right now. They might not be able to think strategically or build a scalable system because coding is execution. And what I'm talking about is product leadership. As a non-technical founder, you can and should be the product leader. And this is precisely what I teach inside of the Tech for Non-Technical Founders program. And so think of Steve Jobs. He's probably the most famous non-technical founder of all time. He was obsessed with the needs of the user. He was famously obsessed with design, with elegance, with commercial strategy, and the experience. So those early advertising campaigns that got everybody to love Apple, that was really his vision because he was the one that was selecting the creators, the advertising firms, and so on. Also, think about the music revolution. It was his insight to sell individual songs for 99 cents as opposed to sell whole albums. And that's not a technical idea. It required technical execution, but it was a business insight that reshaped the music industry. The code simply followed that insight. So this is what this means for you as a non-technical founder. You don't need to write code, but you do need to understand the technical production process well enough to lead product development. This means you need to learn the digital product development process. You need to understand how to evaluate developers. You need to have an idea of what good architecture looks like. You don't need to build it yourself. You need to know how to release your minimum viable product and what you're going to do after it's released. You need to be able to understand some technical trade-offs. So like what happens if we are going to have lots of video in our platform? What are the trade-offs that we're going to have to make if we do that? Or what are the technical trade-offs we're going to make if we need our platform to be super, super secure? You also need to understand how to avoid being misled by jargon. Now, this is all very doable, and these are basically what I'd call digital leadership skills. They're totally learnable. This is literally what we teach in the Tech for Non-Technical Founders program. We have been doing this now for over 6 years. I know what I'm talking about because I have students keep on getting results. Because when you master these skills, you stop feeling intimidated and you stop looking for somebody who can code to solve all of your problems. So our students, for example, are building scalable businesses. They are making money. They are raising investment. And not because they become technical founders, but because they become product leaders. This is what allows you to attract real technical partners because really good technical talent wants to work with really good product leaders. When you are on the verge of getting a technical founder, I want you to know that a technical co-founder is not a developer. And this distinction alone could actually save you lots and lots of pain. Think about this. So a developer has to write code. But when you're thinking about a co-founder, that's somebody who's going to help you build a company. That's a different skill set because a true technical co-founder is not just somebody who writes code. They need to be able to set the long-term architecture and not in the broad strokes that you're doing it as a non-technical founder, but actually from a technical point of view. They need to be able to choose the right tech stack for the business. That's a strategic decision. They need to hire and lead future engineers. So that means that they need to have some management skills. And lots of coders don't have any management skills. They need to be able to align tech decisions with commercial goals. Lots of people who can code have no idea about how companies make money. So a lot of coders literally have no idea how to do this. Your technical co-founder will need to manage technical debt. They'll need to take responsibility for outcomes. And they also need to have some ability to communicate with investors. As a non-technical founder, really, that's going to be mostly your job. But the CTO co-founder is going to have to come out sometime. So they need to have some ability to communicate the broader vision and speak to investors. And honestly, I have met brilliant developers who just love writing code. And they do not want this strategic role that requires communication, hiring, and management, and so on. They don't want it, they're not trained for it, and that's completely normal because writing code is a fundamentally different job. What I often see is that non-technical founders mistake this idea of, oh, this person can code with they can run all of the technology. These are really different skill sets. And actually, I would much rather that you would hire a development team and keep building traction than try to kind of force a co-founder relationship with the wrong technical person. Because if it doesn't work out, it's far easier and far less emotionally expensive to replace a developer than to untangle a co-founder relationship. You have to speak tech, even if you have a technical co-founder. So let's imagine this scenario where you actually have a great person, they have great character, they've had really senior development jobs, they've also hired developers, they've led developers, like they are the dream technical co-founder. And they want to work with you. And you also talked about splits, and they're not angling for a 50-50 situation because they know that the real insight and the real commercialization is yours. So you're basically in this dream scenario. Even in the super dream scenario, I don't want you to think, oh, okay, well, they're just going to be in charge of the tech and I'm just going to, sell things. That's not the right way to do things. If technology is a major part of your business, having no understanding of how your tech product works puts you into a really dangerous position and definitely not in a leadership position. Even if you have a super brilliant technical co-founder, you still need to be able to ask the right questions of your developer. You need to be able to challenge their assumptions because sometimes they are going to be wrong. So you need to know how to do that. You need to understand their timelines and the trade-offs that they're making. You're also going to be hiring and firing some of the technical talent, even if you have a technical co-founder, because team dynamics still matter. You need to be able to understand the jargon. You need to know, okay, what happens on the back end, what's the front end, and so on. You need to understand some of the core terminology, like what's an API and like how is our tech stack made. And this will help you to evaluate architectural decisions and set priorities and identify red flags early. Because if you just think that there's this technical person who is just doing everything and I'm just focusing on the money, you are not really leading properly and you're outsourcing your agency. And that's a really, really dangerous position to be in. And basically, no investor is going to back a founder who has no control over the technical side of their own business and no understanding of it. So basically, a technical co-founder is not a substitute for leadership. They're your partner. And partners need peers, not passengers. This is why I always say to people, if you're a non-technical founder, you have to learn to speak tech. That's not coding, but that's leading a tech company. But when you can do this, technical co-founders actually respect you more. So I am very much a non-technical founder, and I work with and collaborate with very experienced developers, and they have respect for me. I have respect for them because I have learned what they do and I have learned how to collaborate with them. When you know how to speak tech, investors also believe in you more because you have that credibility. And I think most importantly, you stop feeling intimidated by other people and you stop feeling intimidated by your own product.